The salty air wafted to the halls of the Sapphire Cove Resort, carrying the faint sound of waves hitting the shore. Emily Carter let out a tired sigh as she stepped out of the kitchen, rubbing her sore wrists. Another grueling shift. 14 hours of chopping, kneading, plating, and scrubbing. She glanced at the wall clock. 11:47 p.m. The last guests had retreated to their lavish suites, and most of the staff had already left. She should head home, too. Her small rented apartment was just 10 minutes away. But exhaustion weighed her down. Just 5 minutes, she muttered to herself, slipping into an empty VIP suite. The room was spotless, the mix of fresh linen and ocean air almost soothing. A grand four-poster bed dominated the space, but Emily ignored it, opting instead to sink into the plush armchair by the window. The view stretched over the moonlit waves, endless and serene. 5 minutes, she promised herself again, closing her eyes. She never heard the door open. The soft click of Italian leather shoes on the marble floor startled Emily awake. Her eyes flew open, locking onto the figure near the entrance. A tall, broad-shouldered man, silhouetted by the dim hallway light. Lucas Grant. The name alone made her stomach drop. He was a Lucas Grant, the man who owned this entire resort chain, known for his icy efficiency and sharp business mind. And she was trespassing in his suite. Emily shot up from the chair, heart racing. "I'm so sorry," she stammered. "I didn't mean to." Lucas stayed silent, his gaze unreadable as he studied her. Sharp, piercing blue eyes, the kind that missed nothing, the kind that had made him a legend in the hospitality industry. Finally, he spoke, his voice smooth but laced with quiet amusement. "I don't recall allowing my staff to use VIP suites as break rooms." Emily froze, her breath uneven. She knew she should say something, anything, to explain herself. But under Lucas's sharp gaze, every word stuck in her throat. He didn't seem angry. If he were, she'd probably be escorted out by security already. Instead of kicking her out, Lucas stepped further into the room, shrugging off his jacket and draping it over a chair as if her presence didn't bother him at all. "You work here?" he asked, his voice calm and measured. Emily swallowed hard and nodded. "I'm in the kitchen. Today was exhausting, and I didn't think I'd actually fall asleep here." Lucas nodded, considering something. He poured himself a glass of whiskey from the bar, swirling the amber liquid before looking at her again. "How long do you plan on standing there?" Emily blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" He gestured toward the chair across from him. "I want to hear about your work." She hesitated, wondering if this was some kind of trap. But something told her that Lucas Grant wasn't the type to play games. He was too direct, too controlled for that. After a moment of uncertainty, she sat down. "Does your head chef know you take naps in guest suites?" Lucas took a sip of his drink, his tone carrying the faintest hint of amusement. Emily flushed. "Of course not. If they knew, I'd probably be fired." He tilted his head slightly. "And yet you still did it?" She chuckled lightly, shrugging. "I've been on my feet for 14 hours. I just needed 5 minutes to rest. But I guess I miscalculated." Lucas was quiet for a moment before he suddenly asked, "Why did you choose to become a chef?" The question caught Emily off guard. She thought of her mother's tiny kitchen, the smell of fresh pastries filling the air, the warmth of Sunday mornings spent baking together, of her dream to one day own her own bakery, where people could find comfort in the simplest of things. "Because I love it," she said simply. "I love how food can bring back memories, how it can turn a bad day into a bearable one, or make an ordinary moment feel special." Lucas didn't respond right away, but something shifted in his expression. Curiosity, maybe even the slightest hint of intrigue. After a moment, he placed his glass down, crossing his arms. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., I want you to make me a dessert." Emily's eyes widened. "What?" "A dessert that will make me remember you." She opened her mouth to refuse, but the way Lucas watched her, calculating, expectant, made her pause. "This is an opportunity. Emily, don't turn it down too quickly." By 3 p.m. the next day, Emily stood in the kitchen of Sapphire Cove Resort, her heart pounding. She wasn't sure why she had agreed to Lucas Grant's strange request. Part of her had wanted to refuse. She owed nothing to a billionaire who happened to find her napping in his suite. But another part was curious. She wanted to know what he really thought. Taking a steadying breath, she got to work. She chose to make a lemon tart, a dessert tied to the warmest memories of her childhood. Whenever her mother had a rough day, she would bake one, saying, "A little tartness reminds you that life isn't always sweet, but when balanced right, even the sour moments become unforgettable." Emily carefully baked the crust to a golden crisp, whisked the lemon curd to velvety perfection, and sprinkled delicate shavings of zest over the top. When it was done, she placed it on a plate, nerves still buzzing under her skin. Lucas arrived right on time. He walked into the kitchen like he didn't belong there, his expensive suit, his imposing presence. But he commanded the space effortlessly. The entire staff stilled, their conversations hushed as they stole glances at their formidable boss. Emily exhaled and pushed the plate toward him. "This is my choice," she said, keeping her voice steady. Lucas stared at the dessert for a moment before picking up a fork, slicing off a small bite and tasting it. Silence. Emily held her breath, waiting, but Lucas didn't react immediately. He just looked at her, slow and intent, as if he was evaluating more than just a dessert. After a moment, he set the fork down. "Why a lemon tart?" he asked. Emily blinked, caught off guard. "Because it reminds me of my mother," she admitted. "She used to say that life is like a lemon tart, sometimes bitter, but if you know how to balance it, it becomes something worth remembering." Lucas said nothing for a long moment. Then suddenly he leaned against the counter, arms crossing over his chest. "I have a new restaurant opening in Miami," he said, "and I need a head pastry chef." Emily's eyes widened, certain she had misheard. "Excuse me?" She felt like the ground beneath her had shifted. A week ago, she was just a trainee. Now a billionaire was offering her a role she had only dreamed of. Her mind raced through doubts. Was she good enough? Could she handle the pressure? Or was this just another test she was bound to fail? "I'm offering you a job," he clarified. "Not as a trainee, but as the head of the pastry department." The word stunned her. "But I'm just a trainee. I've never run a kitchen before." "You have talent," Lucas said simply. "More importantly, you have passion. I don't need someone who just follows recipes. I need someone who understands the meaning behind what they create." She stared at him, feeling as though her entire life had just taken a turn she wasn't ready for. "Emily, this is an opportunity. Are you ready to take it?" Emily had never believed in opportunities that fell from the sky. But when she looked into Lucas Grant's eyes, steady, confident, unwavering, she knew he wasn't joking. And that was the most terrifying part. A week later, she stepped into Ocean's Edge, Lucas's soon-to-open fine dining restaurant in Miami. She wasn't used to flying first class or having staff address her with polished professionalism. It felt like she had walked into a world that didn't belong to her. There wasn't much time to dwell on it, though from the moment she arrived, the work consumed her. Lucas oversaw everything with meticulous precision. He wasn't just an owner. He was a man who knew every detail of his restaurant, down to the way the lighting fell on the tables or the subtle scent infused into the air. And that meant he was always around. They worked together constantly, discussing menus, debating over dessert plating techniques. At first, their conversations were strictly professional, but gradually they became something more. Emily saw glimpses of a different Lucas, not just a cold, calculating businessman the world knew. In the kitchen, away from the prying eyes of investors and executives, he showed her something raw, something real. One late night, long after the staff had gone home, Emily remained in the kitchen, experimenting with a new recipe. Lucas walked in, his jacket discarded, his sleeves rolled up. "Still here?" he asked, leaning against the counter as he watched her knead dough. She smiled. "I'm testing something. Chocolate caramel sea salt tart. Want to try?" He raised an eyebrow but took a small spoon, scooping a bit of filling. Silence. Emily held her breath, waiting. Finally, he nodded. "Perfect." She exhaled. "Really?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out, gently brushing away a streak of flour from her cheek. For a moment, time stood still. Their eyes locked. Something unspoken, yet undeniable, passing between them. Then Lucas stepped back, his voice returning to its usual calm. Don't overwork yourself. Get some rest, Emily. But as he walked away, the distance between them had already shifted. Lucas Grant had always been a man of control, but just when Emily thought she was beginning to understand him, he pulled away. It started after a particular evening at the restaurant when a notable guest arrived. Clara Monroe, a powerhouse in the hotel industry, and as Emily later found out, someone from Lucas's past. She didn't know their full story, but she saw the shift in him instantly. The way his gaze hardened, the way his usual calm became an impenetrable wall. That night, after the restaurant closed, she found him alone on the balcony, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Are you okay? She asked, stepping closer. Lucas smirked, but there was no humor in his expression. I'm always okay. Emily crossed her arms. Who is Clara? He was silent for a long moment before exhaling. She was my fiancée. The word stunned her. Lucas swirled the amber liquid in his glass. She loved what I represented, not who I was. When I stopped being the perfect choice in her eyes, she left without a second thought. Emily didn't know what to say. You know what the worst part is? Lucas turned to her, his eyes sharp yet filled with something far more vulnerable. I never really regretted letting her go. What I regret is letting her betrayal make me stop believing in people. Emily felt the weight of his confession, the rawness beneath his usual controlled exterior. She didn't respond with words. Instead, she reached out and placed her hand over his, where it gripped the glass. Lucas studied her for a long moment before his voice dropped to a whisper. I don't want to make the same mistake again, Emily. She wasn't sure if he was talking about Clara or about them, but for the first time, Lucas had let her see the man behind the armor. 3 days after their conversation on the balcony, Emily noticed Lucas pulling away. He still came to the kitchen, still watched her work, but the quiet moments between them were now filled with hesitation. She knew why. Lucas was afraid of closeness, afraid of trusting someone again, afraid that if he let someone into his world, they would leave, just like Clara had. But Emily wasn't Clara, and she needed him to understand that. That evening, after a long day at the restaurant, Emily found Lucas alone on the beach, where the city lights couldn't reach. She stepped closer, her bare feet sinking into the cool sand. Are you planning to avoid me forever? Lucas didn't turn immediately, but his voice was quiet when he spoke. I'm not avoiding you. Emily smirked. Really? You've practically disappeared for the last 3 days. He exhaled slowly before finally turning to face her. Under the moonlight, his eyes looked softer, no longer the sharp, calculating gaze of a powerful businessman. Emily, he hesitated, as if searching for the right words. She stepped closer, heart pounding. You're about to tell me that we shouldn't let this go any further, aren't you? Lucas studied her, then unexpectedly chuckled, a rare, genuine sound. I think it's already too late for that. Emily barely had time to process his words before he reached out, his fingers tracing lightly along her cheek. I told myself not to get too close, he murmured. But then I kept finding you in everything, in the kitchen, in the way you create, in the way you make everything feel alive. Her breath caught as the space between them disappeared, her pulse thrumming in her ears. Then stop fighting it, she whispered. Lucas looked at her for a long moment before lowering his head, pressing his lips gently against hers. The kiss wasn't rushed, wasn't desperate. It was an acknowledgement, a silent promise that, at last, Lucas was ready to believe again. And beneath the vast, star-filled sky, Emily knew this wasn't just a fleeting moment. This was the beginning of something real. The next morning, Emily arrived at the kitchen earlier than usual, but this time, something felt different. Everything had changed after last night, not just because of the kiss beneath the stars, but because Lucas had finally let her in. She was checking the oven when a familiar voice spoke from behind her. I hope you're not planning to avoid me after last night. Emily turned, meeting Lucas's rare, playful gaze. She smiled. I don't think I could, even if I wanted to. He stepped closer, no longer hiding what was between them. Good, because I made dinner reservations for us tonight. Not as employer and employee, just Lucas and Emily. Her heart pounded faster. This wasn't just a dinner. This was a statement. But before she could respond, a staff member rushed into the kitchen, looking flustered. "Mr. Grant, there's a reporter asking about your relationship with Emily. They said someone leaked information that you two—" Lucas sighed but didn't seem fazed. Instead, he turned to Emily, his gaze steady. "And I guess it's time the world knows the truth." Emily reached for his hand, a small smile forming on her lips. And she knew this was only the beginning. When the last employee left and the restaurant doors locked, only Emily and Lucas remained, bathed in the soft glow of candlelight. Emily removed her apron, glancing around. The kitchen was spotless, but the dining area remained empty. She frowned slightly. "You said you made dinner reservations tonight," she recalled. "But where's the table?" Lucas leaned against the bar, a small smirk playing on his lips. "We're setting it up ourselves." Emily blinked, surprised. "You want to set the table yourself?" He shrugged, rolling up the sleeves of his crisp white shirt. "I think it's time to try something different." For the first time, they weren't chef and restaurant owner, weren't employee and powerful businessman. Tonight, they were just two people, creating something meaningful together. They arranged a table in the center of the restaurant, where the twinkling city lights spilled through the large glass windows. Emily carefully spread a cream-colored tablecloth, smoothing out the wrinkles. Lucas took his time setting up white candles, the soft flames flickering warmly. "You're surprisingly good at this," Emily teased, watching him adjust the glasses with precision. He shot her a knowing look. "I'm very good at putting things in order. You know that." She laughed, but her heart raced, because this moment felt different. When everything was in place, Lucas poured wine into their glasses before pulling out a chair for her. "Perfect," he murmured, his gaze never leaving hers. Day 8. Talking about simple things. How many baking disasters Emily had in culinary school. The first time Lucas tried cooking but forgot to turn on the stove. As dinner neared its end, Emily started to stand, ready to clear the table, but Lucas reached for her hand. "Wait," he said, something unreadable in his eyes. She watched as he walked into the kitchen. A moment later, he returned with a lemon tart, her favorite dessert. You made this?" Emily asked, stunned. Lucas looked slightly embarrassed, though he masked it well. "I've been secretly practicing all week. Not sure if it's as good as yours, but—" She laughed, her heart melting. Lucas Grant, the man who closed million-dollar deals, had baked for her. But before she could respond, he did something that stole her breath away. He knelt before her, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Emily, I never thought I'd love again. I told myself I wouldn't, that I couldn't. But then you came into my life. Unexpected, stubborn, impossible to ignore. And somehow you made me believe again, in love, in family, in something real." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. "I can't imagine my life without you. Emily Carter, will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes, overflowing before she could stop them. She smiled, voice trembling with joy. "Yes. Yes, Lucas, 1,000 times yes." As he stood, pulling her into his arms, their lips met and the restaurant faded away, leaving only the sound of their hearts beating in perfect harmony.